What if much of what the public was told about the Apollo 11 mission was deliberately incomplete? Michael Collins, the third astronaut who orbited the moon alone while Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on its surface, carried a secret for more than 50 years. Celebrated as one of only 24 humans to travel to the moon, Collins served as command module pilot, responsible for keeping the spacecraft operational and ensuring his crewmates' safe return, a role demanding extraordinary precision and mental resilience. For decades, the official narrative painted his experience as peaceful solitude, monitoring systems and waiting for his crewmates' return. But recently leaked information and Collins' final admissions reveal a far more sinister truth. During his 48-minute orbits around the moon's far side, completely cut off from Earth's radio signals, Collins witnessed phenomena that defied explanation. Further attention followed the release of leaked documents and accounts from former NASA personnel involved in post-mission debriefings. These sources claim Collins struggled privately with what he had been told to withhold. While the official explanation for the astronaut's 3-week quarantine was to prevent lunar contamination, insiders allege it also involved extensive briefings outlining strict limits on disclosure. According to these sources, Collins eventually confided in close family members during an emotional conversation. "We lied," he reportedly admitted. "There is something on the far side of the moon. I was told I could never speak about what I saw, but it was something none of us expected." The timing of this alleged admission is notable. It came as NASA prepared for renewed lunar missions under the Artemis program. Some researchers believe Collins felt a responsibility to caution future explorers, suggesting that what Apollo astronauts encountered may have played a role in NASA's decision to end crewed lunar missions after Apollo 17. The Apollo 11 mission began with the thunderous launch of the Saturn V rocket, the most powerful vehicle ever successfully flown. Michael Collins, secured inside the command module Columbia, felt the intense vibrations as the rocket's 3 stages fired in sequence, accelerating the crew into Earth orbit at nearly 17,500 miles per hour. From orbit, the astronauts observed Earth's curvature and its fragile atmosphere, a view that reinforced both the scale and importance of their mission. After completing system checks, the crew initiated the translunar injection burn, breaking free of Earth's gravity and setting course for the moon. During the 3-day journey, Collins monitored the spacecraft's trajectory and critical systems. It was during this transit that unusual events reportedly began. Radio operators on Earth detected persistent interference in Apollo 11's communications. These disruptions did not match known issues caused by solar activity or hardware problems. Instead, the signals followed recurring patterns, raising concerns among some technicians that the transmissions were being monitored or intentionally disrupted. Collins later spoke of an unsettling sensation during the journey, describing a feeling of being watched. While Armstrong and Aldrin focused on mission preparations, Collins repeatedly checked the spacecraft's exterior through the command module windows. He reported seeing brief flashes of light that could not be attributed to stars, space debris, or known spacecraft activity. These lights appeared to change direction and speed abruptly, a behavior inconsistent with known physical laws governing objects in space. Mission Control officially attributed the sightings to reflections or debris and discouraged further discussion. However, the repeated nature of the reports unsettled some NASA officials. Internal memoranda from the period, later leaked, indicate that Mission Control was aware of the anomalies but chose not to pursue a public investigation. As Apollo 11 neared the moon, the crew prepared for the lunar orbit insertion burn, a maneuver requiring absolute precision. Any miscalculation could have sent the spacecraft crashing into the lunar surface or drifting past it into deep space. The burn succeeded, placing Apollo 11 into stable lunar orbit. From there, the astronauts observed the moon's surface in unprecedented detail, its craters, mountains, and elongated shadows. During these early orbits, Collins noticed certain regions reflecting light in patterns that differed from the surrounding terrain. These reflections appeared geometric rather than natural, suggesting something artificial on the lunar surface. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like so YouTube can recommend it to even more people. Tap the hype button right below if you're watching on your phone. When Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin detached the lunar module Eagle for their descent, Michael Collins was left alone aboard the command module. His isolation lasted more than 21 hours as he completed repeated lunar orbits while his crewmates explored the surface. Each orbit took about 2 hours, including roughly 48 minutes on the moon's far side, where all communication with Earth and the lunar module was lost. The far side, permanently turned away from Earth, felt more hostile and disorienting than the near side. With Earth absent from the sky, Collins felt an intense sense of isolation that soon shifted into a disturbing feeling that he was not alone. On his first pass, he noticed surface formations absent from pre-mission surveys, as well as geometric shapes and straight lines inconsistent with natural lunar geology, some of which appeared partially buried beneath dust and impact debris. During a later orbit, Collins reported seeing luminous objects maneuvering near the command module. These objects moved in coordinated formations, maintaining distance and altering speed and direction in ways that defied known physics. When Collins attempted to photograph them, his camera malfunctioned. The film from those intervals was later found completely blank, despite functioning normally before and after. The psychological toll was severe. Though an experienced test pilot, Collins began questioning his perceptions as isolation and repeated anomalies compounded. During a subsequent orbit, he witnessed what he described as the most frightening moment of the mission, a massive, partially buried structure within a far-side crater, metallic in appearance and reflecting sunlight unlike any natural formation. The Apollo 11 mission produced thousands of hours of recorded communication, but the public heard only a filtered portion. NASA operated multiple channels, including classified frequencies reserved for information deemed too sensitive for broadcast. While Michael Collins orbited the moon's far side, cut off from Earth, his onboard recorders captured transmissions later described as some of the most controversial from the mission. These recordings, classified for decades, documented his real-time reactions to unexplained events. Leaked transcripts reveal Collins reporting objects maneuvering outside his spacecraft with apparent intelligence. Multiple objects, maintaining formation, he stated. They're not debris. They're under control. His voice reflected clear unease. During his fourth orbit, Collins allegedly reported attempted communication. There's a pattern to the light sequences, he transmitted. This isn't random. Moments later, the recording dissolved into static for several minutes. When communication resumed, Collins' tone had changed. His reports became brief and procedural, as though he had been instructed to stop describing what he observed. Mission Control's responses were notably restrained. Rather than probing further, controllers replied with scripted instructions, suggesting prior expectation of such reports. Similar communication blackouts occurred while Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were on the lunar surface. These outages, lasting minutes to nearly an hour, were officially blamed on technical issues, though their timing raised questions. Former Mission Control staff later claimed a separate classified channel operated throughout the mission, excluded from official logs. One former communications specialist stated that Armstrong and Aldrin reported direct visual contact with artificial structures on the surface. According to his account, Armstrong described structures watching them, while Aldrin confirmed geometric formations and internal activity marked by moving lights. Each report coincided with sudden transmission cutoffs, obscuring what the astronauts were witnessing. While Michael Collins orbited above, Armstrong and Aldrin's time on the lunar surface was far more disturbing than the public accounts suggested. Official reports describe routine exploration of the Sea of Tranquility, but leaked documents and whistleblower testimony claim the astronauts encountered discoveries that challenged fundamental assumptions about the moon. Soon after the lunar module Eagle landed, Armstrong reported unusual reflections in the distance. These did not resemble sunlight reflecting off rock, but appeared to come from smooth, artificial surfaces. After his historic first step was broadcast, leaked transcripts claim Armstrong reported on a classified channel that structures were visible, artificial in nature, extremely old, yet showing signs of recent activity. Aldrin soon confirmed these observations, describing geometric formations extending beyond the landing area, some partially buried beneath lunar dust. Against Mission Control's guidance, the astronauts moved roughly 200 meters from the lunar module to investigate further. There, they reportedly discovered the remains of a massive artificial structure with materials inconsistent with known lunar geology. Within the structure, Aldrin described objects resembling machinery. Some appeared damaged or abandoned, while others showed signs of functionality, raising the possibility that the site remained active. Their exploration ended abruptly when both astronauts reported objects moving across the surface with apparent intelligence and coordination. The most alarming moment came when Armstrong reported observing watchers positioned around the landing site, seemingly monitoring their actions. Mission Control immediately ordered an emergency return to the lunar module, canceling planned surface activities. Officially, the decision was blamed on technical concerns, During their return, the astronauts reportedly discovered artifacts suggesting human presence on the Moon long before Apollo, an implication NASA was unwilling to address publicly. The evidence suggests Apollo 11 was under constant observation from the moment it entered lunar orbit. This was not passive monitoring, but active engagement by an intelligence that appeared aware of the importance of humanity's first lunar landing. The patterns of interaction imply a sophisticated understanding of human technology and mission objectives. Michael Collins' orbital observations provided the clearest indication of this surveillance. On each orbit, he reported the same objects maintaining precise positions relative to the command module. These objects did not behave like debris or natural satellites. Instead, they maneuvered deliberately, adjusting position to sustain optimal observation angles. The intelligence behind these objects appeared to possess advanced knowledge of Apollo 11's flight plan. The objects often arrived at specific locations before Collins' spacecraft, suggesting either extraordinary predictive capability or access to mission planning details. This raised serious concerns about how closely the mission was being tracked. More unsettling was the apparent coordination between orbital activity and events reported on the lunar surface. Periods of increased movement around Collins' spacecraft coincided with anomalies observed by Armstrong and Aldrin below, indicating a unified intelligence operating both in lunar orbit and on the surface. According to leaked communications, this intelligence attempted to initiate contact using light patterns and electromagnetic signals arranged in mathematical sequences. These signals were too structured to be natural phenomena, strongly suggesting deliberate communication attempts. NASA's response was notably restrained. Mission Control instructed the astronauts to ignore the signals and proceed with scheduled tasks, implying that protocols for such encounters already existed or that NASA was not entirely unprepared for them. Further evidence emerged from Apollo 11's photographic record. While thousands of images were taken, many were heavily edited or removed from public release. Independent analysis of available images has revealed anomalies consistent with artificial structures and objects. Researchers have identified systematic editing patterns, with specific areas repeatedly obscured or cropped, suggesting intentional removal of sensitive details. Taken together, these factors raise profound questions about the nature and intentions of the lunar intelligence. The crew's safe return implies no immediate hostility, yet the abrupt end of crewed lunar missions after Apollo 17 suggests that some form of warning or limit may have been conveyed. The photographic evidence from Apollo 11 represents one of the most controversial aspects of the entire mission. While NASA released thousands of images to the public, independent researchers have identified numerous inconsistencies and anomalies that suggest extensive editing and censorship of the most significant discoveries. The editing process wasn't subtle. Entire sections of photographs were blacked out or blurred beyond recognition. In some cases, objects that appeared in preliminary versions of images were completely absent from the final released versions. This systematic alteration of the photographic record suggests a coordinated effort to hide specific types of evidence from public view. Analysis of the original film negatives, when available, reveals even more disturbing evidence of tampering. Some negatives show clear signs of physical alteration, with sections that appear to have been chemically treated to obscure details. Other negatives are missing entirely from the NASA archives, with no explanation for their disappearance. The most significant missing evidence relates to the artificial structures that Armstrong and Aldrin reportedly discovered on the lunar surface. According to leaked testimonies, extensive photographic documentation was made of these structures, including close-up images that clearly showed their artificial nature. None of these photographs has ever been released to the public, and their current whereabouts remain unknown. Collins's orbital photographs present their own mysteries. Images taken during his passes over the Moon's far side show numerous anomalies that don't appear in the official geological surveys. Some of these anomalies appear to be large-scale structures partially buried in the lunar surface. The geometric nature of these formations strongly suggests artificial construction rather than natural geological processes. The aftermath of Apollo 11 revealed behavior from NASA that suggested the agency was confronting discoveries far beyond its expectations. The official 3-week quarantine, publicly justified as a safeguard against lunar contamination, also concealed intensive debriefings that exceeded normal mission procedures. Former NASA personnel involved in these sessions described them as unprecedented. Instead of standard technical reviews, the focus centered on what the astronauts had seen and experienced. Each crew member was interviewed separately by teams that included psychologists, military intelligence officers, and senior NASA officials. Leaked documents indicate the astronauts were questioned in detail about every reported anomaly, and were asked to produce sketches and descriptions of observed structures and objects. These materials were immediately classified at the highest levels, accessible only to a small group with special clearances. The astronauts were also required to sign additional secrecy agreements beyond their original contracts. These documents specifically barred discussion of certain lunar experiences and imposed severe penalties for violations, explaining the crew's consistent reluctance to address unusual aspects of the mission publicly. The response extended beyond the astronauts. Mission control staff who monitored classified channels were reassigned or transferred, and recordings from those channels were destroyed or moved to higher security facilities. Technical personnel who processed mission photography were likewise bound by new secrecy agreements. NASA's public posture shifted noticeably in the months that followed. Plans for extended surface operations, permanent lunar bases, and large-scale research were quietly reduced or abandoned. Subsequent Apollo missions avoided regions linked to earlier anomalies, selecting heavily surveyed landing sites instead. Internal documents later showed funding redirected away from lunar exploration toward Earth orbit and unmanned missions. The abrupt end of the Apollo program after Apollo 17, despite available capability, remains the strongest indication that the true reasons were never disclosed. Michael Collins' post-Apollo life reflected the psychological burden of carrying profound secrets. Unlike his crewmates, who remained highly visible, Collins chose roles that allowed public service while giving him distance from the spotlight. His brief tenure as Assistant Secretary of State for Public Affairs in 1970 proved unsatisfying. Colleagues observed discomfort with political duties and signs of personal strain. His departure after less than a year surprised many who had expected him to succeed in such a prominent role. Collins later found purpose as director of the National Air and Space Museum. The position allowed him to honor the legacy of flight while avoiding controversial aspects of space exploration. Under his leadership, the museum celebrated technical achievement and human courage, but steered clear of the more troubling elements of lunar missions. Apollo exhibits emphasized engineering success and bravery, omitting anomalies that had unsettled NASA, reflecting Collins's adherence to strict secrecy agreements. Writing became another outlet. His autobiography, Carrying the Fire, was widely praised for its thoughtful insight into the astronaut experience. Yet readers noted that certain portions of Apollo 11 were addressed briefly or avoided. His time alone in lunar orbit was described in technical detail, while observations from those orbits received minimal attention. References to unusual events were framed as possible misidentifications or equipment issues, despite more detailed mission reports. Collins maintained close ties with Armstrong and Aldrin, though their relationship was shaped by an unspoken understanding of what could not be discussed. Those around them sensed a shared burden beyond fame or historical achievement. In later years, Collins became an outspoken advocate for continued human spaceflight, stressing exploration while cautioning against complacency. His comments often included subtle warnings about preparation and the unexpected. Family members reported he struggled with undisclosed knowledge, occasionally alluding to truths the public was not ready to know. As NASA prepared for Artemis, his concerns intensified, carrying an urgency that suggested deeper reasons than routine mission safety. The circumstances surrounding Michael Collins' final admission about Apollo 11 reflect the intense personal conflict he faced in his last years. According to family sources, Collins grew increasingly troubled by NASA's plans to return to the moon without sufficient preparation for what might be encountered there. Leaked accounts of his final statements describe a man no longer able to carry the burden of secrecy. His remark that there is something on the far side of the moon was reportedly made during an emotional conversation with close family members who had noticed his mounting anxiety over the Artemis program. Collins' disclosure reportedly went beyond vague references to anomalies. He is said to have described artificial structures, technology far exceeding human capabilities, and evidence of an intelligence that had existed on the moon for an immense span of time. According to these accounts, this intelligence was not simply observing human activity, but exerting influence over it. Most unsettling was Collins's implication that the abrupt end of the Apollo program was not solely the result of political or budgetary pressures. Instead, he suggested it was influenced by communications or warnings received from this lunar intelligence. His comments imply that Apollo missions were tolerated as brief visits, but that a sustained human presence might provoke a different response. The timing of Collins's admission, as NASA prepared for Artemis, suggests he felt a responsibility to warn future explorers. He reportedly believed that renewed lunar activity could trigger reactions extending beyond the moon itself, possibly affecting Earth. This concern, if accurate, would help explain the extraordinary secrecy surrounding Apollo discoveries for more than 5 decades. The implications for modern space exploration are significant. If Collins' accounts are accurate, current lunar programs may be advancing with incomplete awareness of potential risks. Plans by NASA, China, Russia, and private companies such as SpaceX all assume the moon is an inert world suitable for long-term human occupation. Collins' warnings challenge that assumption directly. What awaits humanity's return to the moon remains uncertain. If the intelligence Collins described exists, future missions could face anything from continued surveillance to active interference, raising questions that extend far beyond engineering or mission design. The future of human space exploration may depend on our ability to acknowledge and prepare for the reality that we are not alone. The intelligence that Collins and his crewmates encountered on the moon represents either humanity's greatest opportunity for advancement or its greatest challenge for survival. As NASA's Artemis program prepares to land the first humans on the moon since Apollo 17, Collins' warnings take on urgent significance. The question is no longer whether we can return to the moon, but whether we are prepared for what we will find when we get there. The truth that Michael Collins finally revealed changes everything we thought we knew about space exploration, human history, and our future among the stars. The only question that remains is whether humanity will heed his warning before it's too late. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming journeys. And if you like exploring interesting things about the moon, check out my video about China's recent lunar exploration that putting the United States in a desperate effort to catch up. Click on the card displayed on the screen now. Enjoy the video. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.